Creating a video surveillance system today can sometimes be a puzzle. Luckily, with Milestone XProtect video management software, it's easy because it brings all pieces together in a perfect combination so you can create a solution that keeps people, premises, and property safe today and tomorrow. Airports, casinos, and other 24-hour operations depend on constant, reliable surveillance, all day, every day. With more than 20 years on the market, XProtect has proven to be the right answer for more than 500,000 installations worldwide, from flower shops to universities, stadiums, and cities. You should be able to build a system that suits your needs. With our open platform approach, you get access to a community of thousands of integrated applications, services, and more than 8,500 hardware devices that add extra value and capabilities to your system. Let's be realistic. Sometimes bad things happen, and when they do, you need to react. XProtect is designed to be simple to learn and easy to use without compromising on advanced capabilities. And whether you are at home, at work, or on the go, XProtect is always there with 3 flexible viewing clients that put you in control anytime, anywhere. Starting with XProtect means starting right, with a future-proof VMS that can easily grow and expand over time as your needs change. It means starting with software that we upgrade and improve 3 times a year to make it better, safer, and more powerful. While you work to prevent, protect, and prove, we work to ensure you get a reliable, high-performing, and secure solution. Building a video solution today requires a solid foundation. It requires XProtect.
Thanks everyone for joining. We're going to try and move a couple of mics down there so everyone's got their own mic. Some of you were with us on the call we had last Friday. For those of you who didn't make it, this is just an informal discussion. It's meant to be a discussion between you guys, basically, seeing you know what's happening. This there, seeing you're all on that side. Just to find out what's happening, what the challenges are on an estate. And we've got security managers, we've got a risk manager, we've got a estate manager, and a lot of you guys are doing operations as well. So it's kind of a broad overview of what's happening and what the challenges you're facing at the moment on estates. So, I'm here just to ask a question or something like that, and then you guys chip in as and when you have something to say. To start out, maybe we can just go around the table, introduce yourselves, say where you're from, and maybe just to put you on the spot a bit, if there's 1 or 2 challenges that you sort of really are sort of struggling with at the moment, or some of the things you're facing at the moment, maybe you guys can just sort of mention it briefly. We're not looking for a big, long speech. Just mention briefly what your challenge is, and then we'll get into some of the questions. The microphones have got a little button at the bottom. You'll see it'll be red when it's on. So, if you want to switch it off, then that's also fine when you're not speaking. So I'm going to switch it off and let you guys, maybe we can just start right here.
My name is Jaco Gerber. I'm a security manager at Kalami Estate.
No challenge.
Nothing yet.
I'm Stanley Steenkamp. I'm the risk manager and more for Serengeti Golf Estate. Our challenges are a lot, but we'll get there.
My name is Frikkie Erke. I'm security manager at Jaco Creek Golf Estate. We're sitting with a couple of challenges. We're sitting with 17 precincts, which is basically smaller estates in the bigger estate. Major challenges is 80% of our units is rentals, and we're only sitting with 20% of the actual owners that's staying on the estate. Each precinct sits with his own managing agent, chairman, and trustees. Only 3 of the precincts is HRAs. We're sitting with a couple of challenges as well.
There we go. Morning, my name is Mark Lightfoot. I'm from Blair Athol Golf Estate. I'm the operational manager. Challenges are a lot. I think probably At this stage, it's contractors coming into the estate, asylum seeking documents. That would be one of the biggest things, especially getting them vetted, right documentation on them. And then access control, one of the other points we've got. Speed control, that's another function that we've got that is a problem. The billing of the speed and also the process that you go through, getting the information from the camera to where you physically bill the client, and the period that it takes. So we've got a lot, that is one of them, and then the physical security. It's me.
Hi everyone, it's Colin Hume from Eagle Canyon Golf Estates. I'm the security and risk manager. We've got a few minor issues, but our current service providers are in development to sort out the current issues that we're having. And we obviously have a few of the similar issues as the Athol that Mark just mentioned, but it's in hand at the current moment.
Good morning, I'm Perry Marshall. I'm the security supervisor for Eagle Canyon Golf Estate, and Colin just mentioned the minor issues.
Morning, everyone. I'm Robert Trawani from Blueville Golf and Country Estates. I'm the risk manager. I can say so far the challenge is access control and getting contractors vetted on the site. It's a serious challenge. You have residents bypassing the access control system. The rules are limited. They don't cover most of the issues that we can address. So that's a serious challenge. We just changed access control system now from click-on. Yes, click-on had some glitches, but they keep on highlighting that we have network issues in the state which need to be resolved. So as board changes, everything, things like this never been addressed. We are trying to see if we can address now. We get the IT guys, but unfortunately they have terminated the access control services with click-on. We are now with Provet. Provet solution is like you from, I'm not sure even if someone is from Provet or friends of Provet, but I have serious challenges with the system. Not sure if it's because it's new. The guys and the administrators still need to familiarize themselves, but things keep on changing and we are struggling, especially when it comes to contractors. We used to use dual card system, which Click-on were able to assist, and now we don't have one function is away. It's no longer in use. So it's a serious challenge. I can't tell you how many contractors are in the estate. Besides the resident bypassing the access control system, those who are using our gate, it's a serious challenge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's actually quite interesting. I was having a chat with someone, security manager in the logistics industry yesterday, and he was also saying that he's also wanting to do visitor management, contractor management, that kind of thing for his warehouse. And he says, none of the actual people who supply it can do what he wants because he wants to be able to verify that whoever comes in is who they say they are and they're going where they say they are. And a lot of the contractors, not contractors, suppliers or service providers, they do the kind of SMS thing. If you've got the SMS, then you get in to the estate, or in this case, the logistics thing. So I think the whole access control and visitor management is a kind of a problem across the board over various vertical markets. But let's actually start with access control and visitor management and contractor management and things like that. If you look at what's on offer in the market, there's a whole bunch of products and solutions out there, using biometrics or scanning license discs and everything like that. Do you find, obviously you're finding that whatever they're offering is not enough. What is it that you actually need to be able to effectively control, your visitors, your contractors, and your service providers and whatever, without having to, keep them at the gate for an hour or whatever the case is?
I just wanna highlight something. When the board appointed Provet last month, okay, we never signed a contract, we're still in the process of finalizing that. So let me put it this way, I was on leave when this process started. So on my way back, I discovered that we have a serious problem. So I need advices. Someone will know of the best solution to this kind of problem. And to lay the resident down, I have 1,600 residents in the Gulf States. So if you are unable to identify, to know these are golfers, those are visitors, this is a serious challenge, those are contractors, and other things that we used to have when a visitor comes to you, you'll have a notification to say this person has been arrested. When the person leaves, you have the same notification with detail and a photo of that particular person. And you don't need to run around and say, you're not sure. So now that function is taken away. And I mean, we have a serious problem. And if we let it end like this, unfortunately, we will not have control of our states. So I need solution to whoever knows or good signature. Thank you.
I think that if I can come in, we must first break it up what it is or what you're looking at. So Globant is a visitor announcement system, the same as what SA Tech is a visitor announcement system, and that system is only for visitors entering the estate. So there's a couple. So you've got your biometrics, which is for residents, how you load your contractors on or how that works. But the principle behind the visitor announcement system is a system that actually allows a resident to give permission for a visitor to enter or a delivery to enter. So that is logistically, I would think that it's still going to be a process that you go through. I know that when we went over to SA Tech, which is based on the same as Globant, and I think most of our systems that we use around the table is about the same, is that you actually ask for a code. The code that gets sent to the visitor comes to the gate and gives the code. It's the same as a click on if you work it out. But the logistically behind that is to get that up and running. It takes a long time, Robert. It's going to take you at least 2 months to get through all the small hiccups on there. The Globant system, we had a shootout with them and SA Tech when we did our things about 3 years back. And I think, Yaku, you guys had a company called, which did yours, we were,
Impra.
before Impra?
Was it?
No, not on your access control, but on your visitor announcement system was a guy that had a family in Racknet. So Racknet was also the same system. So we were with Racknet, and then we moved away from Racknet, and we had a choice between the two, and which we went over to SA Tech due to price. So they were exactly the same systems. They did the same. They promised the same scanners and all that. And the SA Tech came out much cheaper than the Racknet. Which system are you with? Globant. Yeah. That's why we went with them. And it's been working for us. I think our biggest problem now is with cell phone upgrades and iOS, Apple, and all that. When all that comes through, our system falls down. And that's currently what I'm busy with now, is that iOS, the new version, doesn't support the system, so they have to rewrite it. So you've got a day or 2 days or 3 days that you actually don't have anything. And that's where I'm currently at. And it's not although we all say it must be a South African-based unit, that it's easy to use and easy to get repaired. But I mean, most of my residents are from England and America and things like that, and their cell phones are from there. So if you have to update the iOS store, it must update there as well. So that's what makes my challenge, and it's difficult. So in short, if you plan it now correctly and find out what your shortcomings are, I'm sure that from your point of view it can work, but you need to get the training on that, unfortunately.
From our side, we are currently at Globant. We are in the process of going on a POC for 2 different companies, where we took our neighbor and said, right, why do we want to change the visitor management system, visitor announcement, whatever the problem is? Each estate in its individual has your MOI, which literally states that any visitor that comes into the estate is the responsibility of the resident, and he takes full responsibility for that. The problem is with visitor management is that I send you an access code, or I send you a code via an SMS or a generator code. That code you can take, but it's just a code. There's nothing to it. There's no registration, there's no name, there's no nothing. So what happens, you get to the gate, you give your ID, we scan your car, we scan your license, you give the code. And then the interesting part is if you are with Loving, on your wall you've got a little barcode. So you've got all the stuff scanned into this little scanner, and once everything's done, you scan this barcode. So who opens the gate? Security does. It's not the resident. He takes responsibility for it, but it's the resident that we as security have to open up. So we changed the parameters and said, but I don't want to. If the MOI states that it's a responsibility, you as a resident take responsibility for your visitor, that means you must take responsibility for his access too. So we went to a few different companies, and Loving actually came to the party. They partnered with a company called, I think it's Ayoba, that will actually resolve some of your problems for, they've got a program for scanning documents for Home Affairs. They've got a direct link with Home Affairs that you can scan a refugee paper or whatever, and it gives you real-time update with a photograph, is this real or not? But we said, you know what, it doesn't work. We went, because of COVID, touchless. Biometrics is now facial recognition, so we don't want you to touch anything, so we took the fingerprints and all that away. And the big challenge was that if I do that for a visitor, how does it work? Because, I mean, I don't want to send you a code. I want to have the info regarding who's coming into the estate. And after a long search, we actually came to the party. They've now they developed something new. Our neighbors in the same category, and these two are now in a competition to see who's going to get this contract. But the problem was for us, if you get to any estate and you get a code, there's no registration, there's no info that goes with that code. None. So we changed it and said, simple. I don't send you a code anymore, I send you a link. On the link, you have to fill in certain criteria, which is a compulsory, and you have to agree to the terms and conditions of the estate. So you have to drive a certain speed limit. This is the rules and whatever. Because that gives me the ability to then issue a fine to you and not to the resident. Because sometimes it's a contractor like Take a Lot. He comes and delivers 60 packages on a daily basis. Who's going to pay? Which resident am I going to find? So that gives us that ability. But that link, after you've done everything, you literally take a selfie with your phone. You submit this. The resident gets that notification first to say, is this the man that you are inviting into the estate? And if that says yes, then it updates the system. So when you get to the gate, we do the whole process, scan your photo, your driver's license, your ID, everything. But then you look right into the camera, and the resident has now the ability. Security doesn't open up for you. We just do the process. And then you enter the estate. But it's a challenge, must be honest with you. Some people don't know what a selfie is. I must...
Yeah, it's just that you're going to sit everywhere with it. Because I know, and I think with all the estates, it's got the same challenge.
Yeah.
You've got a person coming in to come and do a delivery. He gets a code. But in the meantime, he's got 4 other deliveries within the estate as well. And sometimes each resident sends a guy a code, but you can only use one code.
Yes.
And that's one of our challenges as well, what we basically put into. Is listen, depending on who the stake lots, and how the question needs to be asked to the driver. How many deliveries inside do you have? If he says I've got 4 or 5, park, give us all the codes, inform all the residents, because the problem is, I generate the code, the guy comes in, takes a half hour to get to my house. Asking questions, but where's the guy driving it out? And then only to find out afterwards, okay, but he's rented 4 other places as well. So that's another challenge we basically looking into this, and how do we streamline this? Yes, I understand. From your side, it's to listen, who do you keep accountable? We made a decision, visitor on the estate, irrespective. Uber, frequent visitor, whatever it is, if he transgresses an infringement, I ban it from the estate.
No, we
I don't
can say.
inform my resident about it, depending on who. Then a guy come back to me and say, oh, listen, I got this, I'm going to fine. So if you're not happy with it, stay outside, don't come back.
You see, but the problem with us is that the estate, Serengeti estate, is we've got 4 phases that's developed, or 60% developed. There's phase 5, phase 6 that's not even, they don't even break ground yet. Okay, so there's still, and there's lodges, and they're busy with a hotel now, and there's a medical center coming up, and there's, you know what, the developer is going out and he's like, it's not his problem. It becomes my problem. And what we've decided is that, you know what, I need to track people in the estate. That's the idea. It's like playing golf, and I mean, you're the same.
Jaco, if I can just butt in there. So, you know, I'll go back to a few points that he raised, but on that, so what we do is we have a waiting area now for Takealot and Uber and stuff like that, and they actually pull in there. We will phone every resident and make them press 9 and agree that they're coming. If they're not there, we inform the driver not to deliver there. And we use SpyTrack. SpyTrack, there's many devices on the market, but I went to SpyTrack for the reason that you place it on the car, it's got a magnet. The minute you pull it off, it's got a sensor on. So the guy can't pull it off and stick it on a pole somewhere and then continue driving in the estate. We get notified. It's live tracked in the control room. He gets given a map. We track him throughout the whole estate. That thing's also got a GPS, so where we don't have cameras, we can actually detect his speed on the estate. And then by the time he gets out, we'll know exactly where he's been, his whole route, where he stopped, why he stopped. And if he went to the houses that he wasn't meant to, we'll know that. So it's all done through SpyTrack.
Are they saying, okay, so if I'm asking to think of the black hat, how big is that unit?
It's probably half the size of my cell phone.
Okay. So you place it on the vehicle itself?
Yeah, we put it on the roof of the vehicle, and like I said, it's got a sensor on, so you can't put it off. There was a few other ones. There was another company, it was in one of the magazines from High-Tech, that they had a little yellow bag. The problem with that is you could take it off, and they could leave it somewhere. So that was why we didn't.
No. Okay, is it only for your delivery vehicles?
Only deliveries?
For now.
We're testing it. We've just got 10
Yeah, I'm
units.
just thinking, and get a guy with a Ferrari pulling in there and stuff, putting on my roof.
So what we actually did is for that, we actually made it pieces of paper, laminated,
thought-
put it
I
there,
thought as much,
and then put the magnet on top of it. So
Because you're going to open yourself up for
And
the
what?
of big damages. Oh my God, been damaged.
Yeah, so it's not all
I've
visitors.
had so many of the estate with booms.
So this SpyTrack that you're talking about, this is the company name.
Company name.
And how many of those units will you, just a logical thing, I mean, it comes in, he goes out, and you're still working with a human element, that security officer that's standing by the gate. If you
So
forget that, what happens?
So it's tracked in the control room.
Yeah.
And they won't let him out unless they've taken it off. So on their white slip that they get, they will have all the things, what to do, their procedures, and then take it off. They won't let him out the state unless it's all checked.
The question is, what happens if they forget to take it off? Is there a possibility for them, because it's a human factor? So I mean, we sign them in and out.
Well, 100%. So it's tracked the whole time. It's got geo tabs. So basically, the minute it leaves the estate, we'll know about it. We would have all his details as well, so we could actually phone him. Touch wood, it hasn't happened yet, but we would know the minute it left the estate without us taking it off.
Robert?
Yeah, I think it's a very good system. Blending, I think, especially in a golf estate, I understand it's still testing, but it's working well. We like the system that works, especially for the golf.
Just for interesting sake, what does one unit like that cost?
So there's many different units we could buy. We just went to the $2,000 units. We bought them outright. They have rental options and everything, but I wanted ownership of them because it's a web-based page. So whether we stay with SpyTrack or not, the devices belong to me, and I can just log on to the web base.
So they're licensed to speak to it.
Okay.
Well, something to invest in. Have a look and say that's worthwhile.
Well,
I
at
think
$2,000
all of us have the challenges. How do you?
Yeah, well, I think at $2,000 a pop, work out, you get like 30 deliveries. You go, bigger estates will get like 30 to 40 deliveries. Okay, that comes in and out. But I think in like a 20-minute period, you'll probably get a minimum of 30, Monday to Friday.
You know, I think the biggest thing...
If you're lucky.
I think the biggest thing on that, obviously you can get some rebate in terms of the speeding and that of it, but I think the biggest issue for us and why we looked at it and why we did it was a resident will allow the Uber in or the delivery in, but then what will happen is, because he's delivering to 10 houses, they'll phone and say, this guy's roaming the estate because I granted access 40 minutes ago. Where is he? So at least I can then log onto the system and say, this is exactly where he is. He's done these houses before you. We are monitoring. And I think it's been more of a peace of mind to the residents.
I don't think it's a bad system. I actually think it's good. I know there's a couple of guys that have put cameras up in the estate, number plate recognition cameras to in essence, then track vehicles by when they drive past.
So that's currently what we're doing. Our platform that we're using is Heat Vision, and we've got LPR cameras in the entire ring road that we've got. So the business management system we're using is Entry Pro. We've done away with Globing as well. So the Entry Pro system needs AI that's interlinking with the Heat Vision cameras itself. And then if you come in as a visitor or as a delivery or somebody who it is, and you say, I'm going to this number, this precinct. So when you deviate it, once it's been scanned, the system uploaded your information. And once you deviate from your route and go into a different precinct, there's alarm that's been sent to the controller. And we dispatch reaction vehicle and say, what are you doing in this precinct? You're in the wrong precinct, what it is.
So that's when you've got a lot of precincts. But what happens if you've got like I'm going to use Featherbrook, for example, which is one estate, one entry. So you don't really have precincts, you've got internal streets. I think Jaco's got the same. He doesn't have a Blair Athol is also not a precinct. I think you guys also not a precinct. No, but you've got blocked off sections.
We've got section tiles, but they're not boomed off.
Boomed off.
But I think also we use Entry Pro, and I think one of the biggest things, and that's, I think every estate's different in terms of your gates and stuff. And I think Entry Pro comes to the party in two regards of one thing they're developing. And one thing is if you generate a code, we can tell you to send pin drop to that gate, and from the gate to the residence back to the gate. So there's no excuse in terms of wandering. So if we pick up anyone driving where they're not meant to be, there's no excuse. So every time you send an app, it's got all the warnings in terms and conditions and speeding. Pin drop to contractor's gate, pin drop from contractor's gate to house, pin drop back. Because we used to have a number of people getting lost in the estate.
But our problem is specifically it's your residents that invite a guest or a visitor. That's one thing. What about the people that's unannounced? Either goes to the clubhouse, plays golf, whatever. How do you know he's actually at the golf club? How do you know from your gate where he comes in and he's got the golf clubs in the boot and he's got everything done and he now has to drive to the golf club? How do you know he actually went to the golf club?
So on that point, very good. The same we looked at too, and it's in development, and Entry Pro again, we've been working for quite a while and they're developing quite a few things with us. The nice thing from our estate is obviously from main gate to clubhouse, it's boomed off. You can't get to the estate. We have had a few issues of people coming into the clubhouse and then wander the estate and parking there. So what's in development, which we should be testing pretty soon, is you'll have 15 minutes to check in where you're meant to be. If you haven't checked in, it's automatically sent to the control room. The control room will then phone that person because we have all the details and say, where are you? Why haven't you checked in there?
Is that on the Entry Pro platform as well?
So it's in development, but that's on the platform, yes.
So just to confirm now, I come to the gate as an unannounced visitor or even as an announced visitor. This is all, there's going to be a quite lengthy document that they have to go through and loading of the system, or is it just scan, get in?
So, again, we've changed our processes on our side. Before, if you said you were going to the clubhouse, we would grant you access. Now, in terms of us, it's to get away from us allowing them in. You have to phone someone. They have to grant access, so we're no longer doing it. They'll go through there. They need to make sure that their guests that they just allowed in actually are pitched up there to get scanned.
So we're also sitting with the two gates currently. One is not, we call it the contractor's gate at the moment. So we've got a problem as well when golfers or people that's making use of the clubhouse itself. They don't come there unannounced, no codes, nothing whatsoever. So we've got a little slip that they can complete now at the moment. And there's a specific signature that they require to get signed, and that's in the pro shop. So once that person needs to sign it, he comes to the gate and issued it back with a slip. He says, but it's not been signed. Then you need to go back and obtain the correct signature before you grant them.
So on that, I think that's why we Entry Pro, and I'm sure Entry Pro will talk to you about it. But I mean, one of our biggest things is exactly that. So once they get the signature, they still under the estate because they have X amount of time, they get to the gate, it's there. So there's two faults to the system which they're looking at. You get X amount of time to check in, and they even have a check out time. If you're not checked out by that time, there will be a phone call. So we're trying to cover those loopholes for that reason.
So our new development now that's coming up, they're busy tying the back road from us now as well. So there's new development that's coming up there as well. So once that is started, we're going to block off the lanes with booms. So if you're a golfer, you're coming to the clubhouse or something like that, you need to make use of the second gate. Because that second gate only gives you access
right by the clubhouse.
to the clubhouse. Yeah. That's it, so you can't wander around inside the estate itself.
Yeah.
Well, sorry. Well, if you go around the table and you listen to everybody's challenges, ideas, everything that's in process and being developed and everything, I do not, and that's my personal opinion, I do not think there is anything on the market that is foolproof. Unfortunately. So you'll have to look at all avenues, cover everything, but at the end of the day is you'll have one thing covered and you find another loophole. And unfortunately, that's why sessions like this is actually very important. So you go around the table and find out from each and different estate, what is the challenge, how did you overcome that, to start looking going forward and coming back to what I said. Unfortunately, nothing is foolproof. So it's an ongoing challenge for security managers, estate managers, risk managers, across the board, board of directors. Everybody's trying to come with a solution and everybody thinks this is the best. Yes, though being you spoke about deep vision, Mark, you've got Entry-Pro, studying, I don't know. So everybody's, and there's a big market for it. Everybody's now jumping on a bandwagon.
Yeah.
I
So
think the main thing down here is there's no system that can be access control and business management system from the same supplier. There ain't anything. Because we look at different type of things that there is. So with Fidelity, we looked at, they want to give us Paxton, which is piggybacking from My Home Life, which is piggybacking back from Entry-Pro and things like that. So that's not what we want. We want one system that is working throughout the entire thing, with your access and your management system. And there ain't a product like that on the market at the moment.
unless you go back to your current service providers, like you did now, and say, listen, what do you have on the market?
I think you have to
tell them to listen, start developing.
100%.
Instead of, like you said, Vicky, okay, currently we're using Impro and we're using Lawmanet. It's almost like a one-stop solution for us. But it's actually going back to them and saying, listen, what else is in the market for you? Because you're not only concentrating on one item or one project alone. You need to start developing as well. And if other companies start developing their own and your current service provider can't do that, then you know, okay, we have a problem. Unless they come back and say, we are thinking about it, you don't answer questions yet. But again, like you said, you need a one-stop solution that can cover everything. And currently, what one guy can do.
I also think that we must also bear in mind or take in mind that if we're looking at one-stop solution and we're just talking about the access control now, but have you ever tried to draw a report on most of these? Then they say you must generate your own report and you must create your own report and you must build your report, and it's a nightmare.
Chaos.
It's a chaos. You can't. There's no system that there's a push of a button that says this is how many visitors are in.
Yes.
This is how many visitors have left currently now, and so many left. If you really, if there was a system on the market, and I think if there really was, that by a guy sitting around a table would say, this is what my needs are, and they draw that up, that guy will make millions. Truly speaking, will make millions.
If I can interject, so we were lucky with Entry-Pro.
Which you
You can answer.
So we were lucky with Entry-Pro. They come to us and say to us, what reporting do you need? How do you need it to look? And they actually develop it site-specific for Eagle Canyon to say, I want to know which contractors have left the estate, which visitors are in the estate, which residents are in the estate, the gate usage, our boom usage, it all comes through. It's all, so they actually sit with us and say, give me the reporting you want, how you want it to look, and That's how it's done in Eagle Canyon with Entry Pro.
Just a question. So the Entry Pro that you're talking about, that's your visitor announcement system, or is that your whole
That's our
access control, everything
complete
combined?
solution. Complete solution.
So that's your residents loaded on the system, that's your biometrics, your contractors, your visitors,
Yes.
deliveries and all that.
We use the Wave system with Morpho through Entry Pro, and we've got our visitor management, residents, everything on one platform.
You know, sorry to take over there, but I think the biggest thing, we tried a different company, and they also ended up trying Paxton controllers. The issue that we had with that was we couldn't take a service away from residents that was offered to them before. And what I mean by that is the Paxton didn't have X amount of categories in terms of your domestics times, your contractors times, where Entry Pro you could do it site-specific. And I think that was the biggest thing on them, is they developed their own controller for it. So you can give every resident their own unique times for domestics, for drivers, for au pairs, contractors, whatever. And that was our biggest reason to actually go back to them and away from Paxton, because Paxton could not get it right on the estate.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, we're in some process of moving over completely, because currently our X is running on satellite, and now we're going to move over to Impro itself as well. It's better control.
Is that moving over to the Impro or Entry Pro?
Entry Pro.
An Entry Pro is not an Impro product, right? Or Morpho.
Yes, interesting. Sorry, just one more. We all talk about visitors coming, but there's a philosophy that says criminals also want to stay safe. Okay? So they also buy the houses. Are you experiencing the problem where a resident will come in, he will go pick up people on the outside and just drive in because he's got access?
Yep.
And that is the problem, because nobody knows anything about him.
So in our rules, we say that you can't drive out and pick up anyone. It's actually in our rules that says that it's a breach. And I think, going back is Entry Pro again, we went to them and said, look, we need you to work with Cypher. Cypher do our network and do our cameras. And what we've said now is they're in development of that as well, and it's pretty soon to launch, is we also have a number of residents who own several cars and they don't want to give us all their car registrations. So when they speed, for example, we don't know who they are. So the Entry Pro system, what they're going to do is they're going to link into the LPR, and the minute you wave your hand, it will tie the number plates to the driver. So we'll have better control over that, because obviously we have a number of people who go out, pick up people, and we don't actually know those car details. So it will actually link it to the actual wave transaction.
So we even have it for domestic drivers. They pick up domestics inside the estate and drive them out. And the resident actually gets a penalty for that, because you're not allowed to. That each person has to get out the car, swipe at the turnstile, then you can fetch them back on the outside.
So here by Jackal Creek, we're still in an old version of the biometric system we've got. And we want to move over to the wave readers now. So with the COVID part that we've done is we created a QR code which came from the cell phone, from the app itself. So the loophole in that is you want to have a visitor that's coming in and you don't know us to know where it is. They gave their cell phone to the people to come in to scan with a QR scanner, and then they're coming in with using their finger. So then we stuff the cane with that. So that's our lucky part is with a look. We're 80% rentals in the estate. We've got our majority people is Nigerians that staying in there. So we've got a drug problem that's going on in the estate itself. But the lucky part of it is once the cameras and things are coming in and they realize there's LPR's cameras that's coming in, they start moving out one by one. So once the cameras is there, they start moving out.
Colin, sorry. I just missed that part. You said, okay, so you've got a penalty imposed on a resident if he drives out and he picks up someone and brings them in. Is the outside the estate? So if you can see them, but my question is, if he drives where you can't see him and he picks up someone, he comes back in.
100%.
There's no, yeah. So that's the challenge we've got now currently at our estate, is where the people wait outside the gate and they pick up and then we advise them. And now they get clever, they go across the road.
Yes.
The camera doesn't pick them up.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's a different scenario because, like I said, they'll find a loophole somewhere.
But Jaco, I think that we must just establish that I'm a resident and I can pick up whoever I want in my car.
Mm-hmm. That's the main thing.
You're going to
okay.
stop me from bringing in a person. the person in my car is given access by me. I think the difference is if I do not bring that person out. So I bring in, for example, a domestic or whoever to work in my garden. And by the time that person leaves, he gets to the gate, he walks out, and then he can't get out.
Or
That's then a different story.
Or you generate a code for him to go out. That's a big spot because it doesn't get scanned out.
Yeah.
Sure. That's
Okay, sorry, I mean, yeah, I wasn't planning, I didn't think that the whole sort of access control and stuff would be such an issue, but I mean, obviously it's a huge issue. I'd like to actually just, following on from access control, sorry, we're a bit over time. Does anyone want to take a break for coffee or cold drink or? Okay, cool. Okay. What I want to ask is, with all that information you collect, you're collecting private information. What are you doing to make sure that everything is sort of adheres to the POPI rules? So, somebody can't come and complain and say, what are you doing with my private information? I'm not giving you my license or whatever. And for those who do, what are you doing to protect that information to make sure you don't get in trouble with the regulator?
So on our access code that the resident sends, it actually says that we are POPI compliant on that text message that you're sending out. It actually has POPI compliance to say that all your information, no one can see it, it's all encrypted. So once it leaves your phone, once it leaves the app, should I say, no one else has access to your contacts or anything like that. So we make sure everything is POPI compliant and we make sure the resident is aware of it so it is in the code message.
We started with with a newsletter as well, explaining to people about the POPI Act and things like it and what it is and how it's about and how we are protecting the personal information and things like that as well. And also we're busy changing our boards at the main gates, saying that we are POPI compliant and we're entitled to obtain information and not sharing it. So if they refuse to give us his personal information, then he's don't grant him access.
It's a basic thing that I think the service provider that gives us a service, like for example the scanners, they must be POPI compliant currently, and they give you a certification for what do they call it? It's a certificate.
POPI compliance.
POPI compliance certificate to say that they're POPI compliant on that. I think the only thing from our point of view around the table that the guys that can draw the information is probably us. We can go up to the system, but we wouldn't have a guard that will be able to do that or anybody like that. So it will only be the administrator that has, and he has to sign a waiver as well that he can't give out any information like that.
Just on that, so we actually approached a guy called, and I'm going to read this because I don't know it offhand. His name is John from Certified Data Protection Officer, and we actually brought him in, and he's looking through all our contracts, and we've had to do annexures and stuff, so we actually are up to date on all of that, even the papaya in terms of what residents will need to ask for and how they need to go about it.
Just for interest's sake, we had a meeting 2 weeks ago with ARC where we discussed the POPI Act as well. So the cost is basically 11,000 Rand. They supply you with the documents. They tell you exactly what to do. You could get questions from it and things like that as well. So we registered onto the ARC platform as well, so we can withdraw those documents and things like that, which is quite interesting. There's a lot of information that you can get from it. Like I wasn't aware that I need to sign a contract with Fidelity because the equipment country we've got is still a property of Fidelity. Once we finish with the 5-year contract with them, then it becomes our property. But I need to sign a contract with them saying that they're compliant with the POPI Act with that as well. But ARC is a good platform to get that information as well.
And what about cameras? I mean, a few years ago, cameras were all the rage in terms of, state security and things like that. But, I mean, everything you've been talking about, I mean, you've mentioned LBR cameras, but in terms of normal surveillance, maybe perimeter surveillance or, counting the number of people in a car, things like that, are the cameras still a critical part of your security systems?
Well, from my point of view, since we've installed cameras, and I think you guys are busy with yours, Mark, I think you as well, almost finished with it. But it's been proven to listen, it assists a lot, especially with the crime rate. tracking and tracing, yes. We're still in the process of installing more cameras. But it's helped a lot, and even on our perimeter as well. We're busy with a massive contract now currently, or project on the estate, to cover my whole 8.4 kilometers. And we're busy installing cameras between us and smaller estates. And at the end of the day is, they've got perimeter cameras as well. My main focus on my side from perimeter is I want to make sure that nobody climbs over. I don't want to see another person's bedroom, swimming pool, and agreement was made with each resident where a camera gets installed. They come out, look at the camera, and we show them this is what the guys can see. If we're not happy with this, we block it out. Only thing we want to see is our perimeter. 3 cameras as well, and we, like I said, in the process of installing more cameras. One reason I made a comment is to listen, but where's your privacy? Because we can install cameras all over, so no matter where you walk on the estate or drive, a camera will pick you up. But unfortunately, we've been directed and moved into a certain criteria because of the crime rate. And like Tony said as well, your criminals move into a estate because they got the same security, same privileges. And they're the guys because now they're also protected. And I'd love to get a whole freaky system where for vetting. Currently at my estate, we've got no vetting at all. I need to implement something like that. I don't know about other estates if they've got something like that.
So from my side, I think, Yoko, you've explained pretty much exactly it. I think cameras are a vital role in security. I can't thank them enough for peace of mind. And just to have a human element watching perimeter cameras, you can't blame the guy for sitting at a thing, and you can't also have guys rotating the whole time because you're only meant to sit and watch a camera or a screen for 40 minutes. So black screen monitoring, I think, is the way to go. We use sniper at our gates in terms of picking up car registrations to make sure if the car's wanted or on the police database, which is paid. It's paid itself off already. We've caught a number of Ubers, for example, that were stolen trying to enter the estate. We also vet all our people as well using many different databases. But in terms of cameras, people are also starting to get clever now in terms of, but I want proof because it's your God's word versus my word. So, now that we have camera to back that up, and we've even gone as far as to make sure all officers have body cameras, because it's always he said, she said. We're even putting up microphones at the gates now so that when a resident or visitor says your guard was rude to me, that we can check up on that. And I think you have to have all those things in place in order to enforce your rules and even penalize people for transgression.
Yeah, and I think on a small thing on that is also your telephone system. And make sure it's recorded.
Everything recorded.
Like that as well.
Even our radios.
Yes. And it helps, especially with, like I said now, with the body cam. Every time it's he says, he said. We've implemented now, I think we're now running out for 30 days so far. Like in the beginning, I was not a very big fan of body cams, but over the years it's been changed and everything. So now it's actually crucial for the guys when they attend anything, confrontation, attending to a house alarm or an incident, and they've got the backup on that. So it helps them dramatically.
And I'm sure we've all got this issue in terms of dogs barking, and it wasn't my dog. And I think that's the biggest one in having in cameras and even in the reaction vehicles to show that the car didn't park at your door, because then often the comeback to that is, but your car parked right outside my house and the dog barked at my reaction. I said, no, the car is trained to park 3 houses away, and he walks to your house to confirm it's parking at your house. And I think without body cameras, that's an argument that I could never actually enforce because I can't prove it.
Okay. Interesting. Body cameras have taken a long time to sort of, or body-worn cameras, to sort of get into sort of mass use, if I can use that term. Do you find, you've obviously said they are very worthwhile in terms of, when the guards interact with the residents or visitors or whatever. Do you rely on that a lot, or is it more like a precaution, just in case someone says something wrong?
No, we rely on it 100%. And we've even had the same guy, John, look at our boards at our gates, in terms of the correct wording and stuff to put up in terms of, because we have a lot of residents saying, you can't film our kids. And it's understandable because of all the rules and stuff. But so we're changing our boards at our gates to actually protect us, to say that we can do it, because we always act on a complaint received. And then again, it's a he said, she said. So in terms of the body cameras, we rely on them 100%.
I also think that if we break everything down, cameras, our visitor announcement system, everything that we put in place is for the protection of the residents and for us to use to prove a point.
I think you're 100%, and I think that's what people need to understand is as much as we try to use it to enforce something, we're actually trying to protect you as well because it's a human element. Again, the reaction officer, I can't prove that he followed the correct procedures. So it's kind of us making sure that it's fair, and the reaction officer did what he was meant to do as well. And I think that's the kind of message we need to get across to them is we're protecting everyone in doing it. It's guaranteed that they have to use body
But
cams.
I suppose also, if I may say, is also you've got your usual suspects at every estate. Yep. 5, maybe let's say we made 2 hands of continuous lawbreakers within the estate.
Yes.
And it's always those people who's always.
Yeah, but I'm going to come in here. It is, you've got a handful always. But as age comes, they change, and you get a new age that comes in, and then you'll have a different set of 5, but the same problem.
Same problem.
But you'll see they're mostly related.
Yes, but I think the biggest thing around the table for all of us, and it's now busy putting his head out there by me as well, racism.
Yes.
And there's no longer a thing between black and white. There's now between the Indians, black people community, the white community. There's now a broader spectrum, and there are also sexism and sexist and all of that. So all of us need to be very careful how you approach it, and that's where your body cam comes in, your onboard cameras for your vehicles and everything like that. So it's a massive challenge.
We've got body cams as well in the States. So I've got 6 3 day shift and 3 night shift. I'm telling you that those things helped us quite a lot. Especially if the guys come back the following day and he looked at it and he sees like us. He said, but this is what you've said. And you can play it back to him. The embarrassment on his face. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Now, what we've also found that, as the estate manager of Jackal Creek, sorry, Johanna, I was a bit late. I had another meeting. Is if people don't get their way, they tend to use the phrase, "you're rude." That is the new catchphrase that we're experiencing. So if they don't get their way, or if something is not handled it the way they want it, "Oh, you're so rude." I mean, but now the context, so they go and take it out of context on social media. But now, even in our office, we've installed cameras to protect our admin side of it. And we find that very helpful, because now if they do go, you can actually play down the footage.
So just give you a feedback into that. So they won't send you a mail, official mail, complaining about anything. Nothing whatsoever. There's no such thing. They will complain on Facebook. Yes. 1,700 people on Facebook. That's where they will complain, and that's where everybody will jump on the bandwagon, and that will just carry on and explode and things like that. So that's where they get their fame and things from. So, but we don't stress about it and things. We've got people that's monitoring these things like and just.
But from our side, on what you said, Jaco, we also have the same people that complain and say you're targeting certain ethnic groups and stuff like that. So what I've done in the past is every Thursday we write off transgressions, and I've invited them. I said, please come to my transgressions meeting, and you'll see that it's mixed. And they've never pitched up for those meetings.
I won't.
They never do.
Johannes actually opened another avenue, I think along the line it will be covered as well. It's the thing about social media. So our means of communication, and the only platform we use is through the estate office, through our info email. Whatever is seen on Facebook, that's why I've deleted my Facebook 3 years ago. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I refuse. Hats off to you, Frikkie, because I know you're on it, but kudos to you. But exactly what Frikkie said now as well is that a complaint comes through. As a security manager, you reply back. Everybody on Facebook is 4,000 people, all coming back with criticism. How do you manage that? You can't.
So ours is a WhatsApp issue. So we have our security alert group. You have to sign a form for the rules and regulations of that group. If you breach one of those rules on that group, you're automatically removed I sit as the admin on that group and you automatically remove. But we have community groups. So I do sit on those groups to monitor any security issues. So as soon as they have a security issue, they post it on all these groups and they go wild and all the... So it is difficult to manage those type of groups. You're not allowed to, but you can WhatsApp the admin and say you do know the WhatsApp laws and as admin this and this and this for defamation. But it never works. But yeah, WhatsApp's...
One question. When do you sleep? Because
We
that
don't.
goes 24/7.
By us,
don't.
by us, the WhatsApp groups it's ridiculous. And it's always, people can escalate that story.
Yeah.
It just turns just slightly to the next murder that's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a speed control thing.
Yeah.
And it's always, and the best part is, and all of you that sit here, it's always security's fault.
Yes.
There's nothing that happens on that estate that's not security's fault. I don't know how you get to it, but security is there.
My power is off. Security is fault.
Yeah.
Fricky's favorite one. Sorry.
No.
Fricky's favorite one. He told me about it as we a certain section of the estate has got no power because I know the guys are tapping in from the back. Residents came back to him and said, because you as security is angry with us, you've got to switch off our section with no power.
Yeah,
Just to point out
that was my designation.
He's
the
the
switchman.
He's the switchman. So
They even once threatened to burn me in front of the estate on a stake because they didn't have power, and I worked for Eskom and I couldn't resolve it in time. So I actually had to flee from my unit a year and a half ago, and I went to go and stay in the Monte Casino the night because they actually came to my house because I used to live on the estate. I don't anymore, but big mistake. Don't live where you
So
are.
just on the social part is, so we've got this Facebook that we've got on, and then we've got our groups. So we've got a security committee group, we've got a communications group, we've got a chairman's group, we've got a plant, what do you call it? Landscaping group, we've got a ESCOM group, we've got an ESCOM task group. What groups we still have, you want? So to monitor all those things, it's hectic, it's chaos.
Luckily, we've resolved the issue of power, so that has calmed down, I think, our estate a bit. We've got Zandspruit next to us, which is about 20,000 people that have moved illegal immigrants. So what they were doing is tapping into our lives, just to give you a little bit of context. And we had power failures almost every single day. And people don't understand the concept, they think the estate supplies the power. And we don't. We just manage and we try and report through security, reports it immediately. We had a very good system, and we even were dealing with Eskom at a very, very high level to get the issue resolved. We ended up bringing our 2 own dedicated lines into the estate, and that's working. We haven't had an outage unforced outage for quite a while, Frikkie.
Frikkie can't talk. Somebody needs to switch off.
Okay, but Stony made a valid comment here. Unfortunately, all the estates, no matter what is the issue, whatever, it's always security. Gets blamed for that.
Yeah, so sorry, Jaco, when our electricity was sorted out, because that was the most popular bitching moment for everybody in the estate. Now that has been resolved, they found something else, and always comes back to security. So that's a new platform and topic to moan about.
Yeah, always.
I also think that when a new resident moves into any estate, or I believe that most of us do it, is to say that it doesn't make a difference on what happens. Whenever you need something, call the control room. So we actually open ourselves open for what we are criticized on. So we say that security gets blamed for everything, but we open ourselves to that. Barking dogs, who handles that? Security. Snakes, who handles that? Security. Water going off on the estate, who handles that? Security. It all starts with security, and from there it boils down or boils out of who's the next function. So if it's a water problem, then you'll send the maintenance team. If it's somebody that has to catch a snake, security that gets trained on that, they go out on that. If If your neighbors start fighting, it's security. If there's a bridge on the fence, it's security. If the cameras aren't working, it's security. So everything comes down back to security, the security control room. So we sit here and we say, oh, security gets blamed for everything, but I think we've opened the door to that.
True.
I just want to go back to something you said. You said Jackal Creek is about 80% rentals, and you were talking about vetting people. How do you go about vetting rentals, or do you? Is it possible legally to check who rents or doesn't rent or whatever?
So we've got a program called MIE. So every tenant that's coming in have to come through the MIE. They need to do the MIE. So MIE is basically a process, it's a criminal check process that we're doing. It's a 2-day results thing that they've got. And then obviously your petty crime things, if you've been locked up for drunken driving and things like it, you'll still be okay. But if you come down and like a serial criminal killer or something like that, obviously you're not going to get
It's linked to fingerprints. So basically, anything that you've done where you've been involved in a crime does pop up. So it's better than the IT people come and say, but I did the ITC check. Yeah, that does your financial check. Doesn't do whether you've actually murdered or killed or broke in somewhere or did something stupid.
Question, do your rules and regulations say that you can automatically say that lease can't go through, or are you only allowed to advise the landlord?
We can advise.
We can advise.
So they can still go through with the lease, even if he's committed assault? Or
our MOI says you can refuse, but legally you can't.
Yes.
Because it's a contract between the landlord and the owner. Yeah. So although our MOI says that we can, you actually can't. Because legally you would open yourself, obviously, to a lot of
on our estate, we actually have, so if ours works in 24 hours with MIE, if it comes back and it says inconclusive, we make the tenant sign a letter from Eagle Canyon to say your lease will be terminated if it's a serious offense. So that at least we've got their signature on that. So if it does come back assault, we can say, well, lease terminated. So we do cover the landlord because we look after the members first and foremost. So we make them sign that letter of admission to say if it comes back, it's assault, murder, theft, that lease is automatically terminated.
We have an addendum which is added to all the leases. It's covered in there.
I also think that there will probably be a process that you go through if it was a murder that happened 20 years back or something like that, or when I was still young, when I was 15, and I did my due time. There surely would be a process that you go through.
I use a hard and straight rule. If anything before 94, a lot of those offences were during the previous. So we know that a lot of police abuse took part. So we don't consider anything before 1994. Unless it's murder.
Also on that, you can go to a police station after 10 years and get a clearance certificate.
Correct.
So we normally ask them to go get that. So if you've had no charge within 10 years, you actually get a clearance certificate.
Yeah, but you must also know the Department of Justice can actually expunge a criminal record. So by us, it works the same way. You get the criminal checked. If you have a scheduled offence, scheduled one offence is that basically is your murder, your robberies, sexual offences, thefts, all those type of things. If it's older than 10 years, you can grant access, but whoever the tenant, the resident, whoever brings that person in has to sign the form that says he's aware that there is a person with a criminal record, this is what the criminal record is, and that gets put on his file so that he takes personal responsibility for it. If it's less than 10 years, I refuse access. Simple. I don't even want to take the chance. I don't want to. It's not an argument. It's not a debate. It's not anything like that. Most of the people that has got murder or whatever, they still have. They still fall under the auspice of being checked by the Department of Correctional Services because there's a suspended sentence or whatever the case might be, and it's just not worth it. It's just, you block the access and we let go away. Find someone else.
Yeah, so our vetting thing has been done with the tenants on a yearly basis or when their contract expires. So it's compulsory for them to do it again the next time they want to renew their contract and things like that. But we're also making use of the same program for contractors.
Correct.
So there's different amount that we charge for South African, for passport, and then for asylums as well. And once it comes back as fake, I mean, it's 2,400 Rand for asylum. When it comes back as fake, then sorry, no access been granted, and you don't get your money back. Sorry. So there's a chance that they take.
Yeah, I made sure that we made the asylum. The asylum check is expensive, but I've made it extra expensive because we had an incident where one of our gardening services, 8 of the members had brought us certified certificates. It was done by the pot. They actually got it. So I went through a little bit of investigation, and they hadn't gone through any of the interviews. You've got to go through 5 interviews for asylum. There's the initial interview, then you get temporary. Then you've got to go for the second that checks the first one, the third one checks both the first 2. So there's a whole process that has to be followed for asylum. So if they haven't gone through, and you get a letter, you get a thing for each interview that you've gone through. So that the document means nothing if it can't be verified. And that's why we use MIE for asylum, because they actually do all those checks. And if they come back and say it's not valid, then you can know it's not then it's one of those that. So we asked the guy, how did you get it within 2 days? He said, well, we got there at Home Affairs, and there was this guy that said, asylums, and we went with him, and he took us to a side office, and he had everything set up, stamp, boom, and the documents were done.
But the good thing is that you can now get asylum papers via WhatsApp. $800 and you can get it. It takes you a selfie on the phone immediately. It's like instant.
Yeah, we since we've been implemented the cost on the asylum, we haven't had any asylum seekers trying to come into this state. Not one for the last 18 months.
But what I know as well is that, especially there by me as well, quickest way where I came out and said, listen, how much do you pay for this? $250, so get out.
Yeah.
Because documents for free.
By us, I literally on a daily basis, it's not a once every week or so, on a daily basis, show away between 25 to 35 asylum seekers. We had the Department of Home Affairs come in for the Department of Asylum, refugee status, and they came in and they actually trained my enrollment office as to how to spot a fake document. They show you, and it's simple. It's the most simplistic things. And each number on that document's got a purpose. It's not just a random number for cereal or whatever. There's purpose to it. And we start checking that, and it's like, now residents are fighting with you because the domestic has been working with her for 12 years. Nobody has really done the effort to check the asylum, because every year she phones in, they come in, they renew it. Then we change the system to say, you know what, we need to make sure that everything is checked on a yearly basis. Correct. Because you can get into a whole lot of things in a year. Now all of a sudden, as I refuse access, and they say, but why? She's been working for me for 12 years. Why are you stopping access? Because you know what? She doesn't have legal documents. She's actually breaking the law. She's not even supposed to be here. And that becomes a whole nother debate in terms of rules, because they've actually gone so far as to say, do you think we can sign an addendum with you that you will grant? I said, ma'am, please understand, I cannot sign any document that supersedes the law of this land.
Correct.
I can't give you a waiver to say, you know what, you're responsible. The Department of Home Affairs literally, when we was there, said to us, if they find a refugee or asylum seeker or an illegal person on your property, you as the property owner is liable for a 50,000 rand fine.
Per person, yeah.
The sad part is,
per person.
The sad part is, you as the estate granted that access.
Correct.
Your penalty is not a 50,000. It goes up to 100,000 rand and or imprisonment.
Yes.
For the head of security. And I'm like, I'm not going to jail. Sorry.
So just to give you a bit of background on the asylum, so there's the quick checks that you can check quickly. There's a capture person and a printed person. So these two persons always have to be different. Okay, then there's a captured date and a printed date. Those two dates will also be different as well. They're never ever the same. Then the last quick check that you can do in the left bottom part, there's a perforated thing that says either Desmond Tutu or Hammanskraal. That has to be perforated. If it's not perforated, the document is not real. Simple. And then the new law that came out that says an asylum can only be extended twice. Yes. So anything more than that, it's an illegal document.
But also there's a simple thing that actually, when I did a couple of years ago, went through to Home Affairs. We're on a document, asylum document as well. The word temporarily. They actually spelled it incorrectly. Now, when they print it on a computer, it's auto-check. spell check says, no, it must be spelled this way. There's a first you pick and say, oh, okay. It must be the mistake because that's how it been through originally. So
Here's the interesting part. COVID-19. Department of Refugees closed. Extensions on refugee papers, non-existent. Nobody can get an extension. I mean, you must see the refugee lines currently. If you're lucky, you get a number because we had a resident come and say, we are in line. Like your number is like 5,400 and odd something. That's number in the queue. So he's going to wait about 3 to 4, maybe 5 weeks before he can get to an office. They actually now go so far as to give you a number and a telephone number. You give your telephone number and they'll phone you when you're closer to the line because you can't stand outside. So here's the thing. So we decided that it's not our fault COVID happened. I can't penalize a person because of COVID. If you have a legal document, we'll extend your document on a monthly basis, not 6 months or 8 months a year, on a monthly basis. And if that month in comes and COVID offices were not open, we will extend it with another month. And we communicated that to the residents and said, listen, this is the problem. Passports. There was like 6 or 7 embassies with COVID that closed down. We couldn't get worker permits for the people that they were legal, but in COVID they expired. So we actually made the choice to say, but it must be a legal document, must be a legal passport, legal visa, legal work permit before you can get an extension. Illegal documents, they flood you like crazy, and they are getting really good. I must be honest, they're not like 5 years ago where a false document you could actually spot it a mile away. This is like you now have to pay attention to find out. I mean, the perforations, they actually make them with perforations now. The document paper is now, I mean, we spoke to the police. They literally have stolen about 40 million rands worth of government papers gone. So this is now, the document, if I show you, it looks real. You can't spot the difference just by, okay, it's a false document. You now really have to pay attention to do that. And that's where your systems become important because, I mean, we use a document scanner. You put it on, send it to the Department of Refugee, and they send you back a photo with this. So you can actually verify, but it's still not a guarantee.
Now that's why we use MIE. Since we've been using that, we've been able to eliminate almost. We don't have illegal refugees or anything come. We haven't registered one since 2 years because they just don't. They know they can't get their documents passed. They don't even try.
Last question, we're out of time, but I just wanted to ask, in terms of your control rooms, I assume you all have on-site control rooms instead of remote control rooms. Are you finding these are becoming more sort of non-security control rooms and more operations, IoT systems in there, or is it still mainly security?
Now, I'll let Frikkie talk there, but I think ours, Frikkie, the one we've just installed it last year with Fidelity, and it's mainly security. Am I right?
Yeah, ours is mainly security. We're looking of extending into the different precincts that we've got, but only on the street itself. As we just see my sites, it's just basically the common properties and the ring road that we're looking after, and the gates of where it is. But ours mainly security. That's all it is.
Bias, it's the same thing. The principal bias is security is security. So my control room has got a control room function. There is a section where residents can phone in with complaints and, you know what, my dog is barking and stuff like that. We do deal with that, but the main function is the operation of the estate. My control room also becomes a jock in terms of crisis management, whatever, because we are in a dolomite area. So we have the dolomite risk side. About 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, we had a huge house fire. Where literally we, without knowing, you put the electricity off or whatever the case might be, the fire goes out. But we had to contend with something stupid like a generator. Because generators when the power goes off, guess what? Generator kicks in. So you switch it off, but there's still live power. But simple things like that. So we've decided that, you know what, the control room takes control. That's their operation. They become like your little war room or your joint operation center. There's one person in there that literally takes control of every scenario, because the oak inside there is not under the stress of being on the incident or in the crisis or whatever. So they take the control, and they will make sure, you know what, the ambulances, the medics, the whole works, all of them are at present. But that's their core function.
That's exactly how we are set up as well. We've got 2 controllers in our control room, and they manage and do all of that.
So we've got the more senior one that will obviously take control in any situation that there is. You'll send instructions to the other part to assist them and things with it. But ours is strictly all our complaints. Everything is coming through our control room. That's our heart of our operation as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Got a couple of minutes left. I just wanted to ask Llewellyn if you wanted to, from Milestone, Llewellyn from Milestone.
Yeah, so I think this has been very interesting. It's been very good, guys. The reason why we sponsored this is we also wanted to find out what actual challenges you guys are facing. Obviously, we are on a couple of the estates. Sure everybody knows about Milestone. It's been around for ages. But the power of the product is really in the integrations and how it works with third parties. So what I have noticed is everybody's got their own ideas, everybody implements their own products, but what are the basic challenges that they're facing? So that's why I'm here. My role at Milestone is actually solutions engineer, so I'm not in sales. I'm on the technical side, but it's my job to put together these things that work together and actually bring value. So it's been really, really interesting from my point of view just to hear what you've got. Some of these we integrate with, some of them we don't. I know who to speak to now as well to make sure that that happens. So, yeah, I think that's the important part from my side. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Llewellyn. And that's about it, I guess. We've got 9 minutes left, so maybe I can just I can just go and look at one thing I wanted to ask about is the whole guarding issue. You guys, I mean, you mentioned, I think it was Jackal Creek, that you contracted to Fidelity. Do any of you have internal guards that you hire yourself, or do you all outsource it to third parties?
All outsourced. HR is just worth it.
So myself and Stanley came back from a company that we worked for, that we were, all securities were employed by the company itself. And I'm telling you, it's a hell of a slip of doing that. You need to do the disciplines, you need to go to CCMA, and you need to do everything. So it's easier to shove that down to the service supplier and going through all that effort and things by yourself again as well.
I can attest to that. When I ran Houghton Village many, many years ago, I did the security myself. And I'll tell you one thing, I learned a lot about security, but as a state manager, it took up a lot of my time, especially the human resource aspect.
And you know what's good about outsourcing? There's no fight.
Yes.
It's an email that says, please remove from site.
Correct.
Immediately
site removal, instantaneous.
And they have to replace that. It's their problem. It's their HR. It's their worry. For you, it's maintaining the security and integrity of the estate.
So ever since then, I've been converted to service providing.
And how do you, if you're hiring third-party guards from third-party companies, how do you sort of get them integrated into your estate and the way your estate works? Because, the zero training or grading and gives them kind of basic rules and stuff, but each estate has got some specific function that the guards can or can't.
If I may, what we did is you set up an RFP, which is specific to your site. In other words, you write out what you expect from the guarding company. You've got to tell them what you want and what you expect, and then that RFP goes out and various companies come in and they put their offering on the ground, and you've just got to make sure through the selection process that they actually provide for the needs of your estate as you've written. Like with Fidelity, I RFP myself. We got it out, and I think it was 7 companies bid for it. And the best offering, not just on price, but the best offering eventually gets it. The one that gives you the right SLAs, the one that gives you the right response that you feel covers your estate in terms of what you've put out there. Not knowing that you're not the expert, but at least you give a guideline as to what you want. So you have to be involved in writing and setting up an RFP before you set it
But I think also with the bigger estates, and I think all of us is quite big. And one of the things about me is we're not a training facility. If we want to get training, go to a smaller estate. The guys who comes to any estate, especially I think most of us is from with Fidelity, except Colin, and especially with Fidelity, is you can take an officer from Blair Athol, Copperleaf, wherever, and take him to any other estate. The basics is there. So there's small technical things that you just need to learn extra. But for bigger estates, it's not a training facility. And I think for any estate, if and when you go out on a full tender, and you're changing your current service provider, whoever is a security manager, risk manager, estate manager, take a month's leave. Because it's going to be hell. Because the whole process needs to be done unless you get another service provider who's done previously, that is their background. So you can't take a fly-by-night or a smaller company who says, no, we can do all of this, and when it comes to it, they can't. So I think that's why I know Fidelity has been with us for almost 15 years. And we've got a lot of questions being asked, listen, we need to change service provider. I said, but why reinvent the wheel?
Well, Janka, also, sorry, just to come back on your point there, is that why not a small company and why a big company? And most guys forget that we look at resources. So we've had a couple of incidents, and I'm talking now about a small company where a small company cannot throw, and I'm going to call the resources into it, what a big company like, for example, Fidelity can do. Or which other company said 24/7, or guys like that, or Coin. Meaning that if there's an incident, no small company can afford to put 20 guards on site for a no charge, or fly a helicopter, have guys with dogs, tracker dogs, or anything like that. So it's a process that we go through, and as you rightfully said, that we go through a tender process, and by doing the tender process, we invite 15 guys to come and tender, and you go through, it's like a month process just to weave out the small companies or the guys that do not understand what your needs are. And thereafter, it's a competition. It's a competition to see who can do it and who knows. And I always say the guy that's on site currently has always got the best foot because he knows what you want or what your needs are. And the other guys need to establish that. It's as simple as that. And then from there on, you grow. But I think the top 3 is probably Coin, Fidelity, and 24/7. And Thompson's as well.
Yeah. Just to add to that is we had, just to elaborate on the value of having a big company, is we had a thief that was robbing us internally, blind in the estate. I've got 1,900 users and 5,000 residents. And Fidelity actually dropped 12 kufuts to do extra patrolling. Now, you guys are in the industry, you know what a kufut is. They're not cheap. They didn't charge us. And we had this for 6 months at no charge until they caught the culprit. And since they removed it, we've had no more problem. So that is the value that a proper big with infrastructure can do for you.
It's not just infrastructure. It's the integrity of security. You know what? Your small company will close down, and today is here, tomorrow is gone. I mean, Sira, I think last year there was 4,900 odd security companies registered within Gauteng. Okay? Some of them as actually reputable companies. Some people I've never even heard about. They don't feature, they have nothing to do with. For me, it's about the integrity of security. The company that represents security that comes in as the image of the estate. They have to represent what we are. If your integrity is not in place, and I can't prove that, you know what, you're reputable by any standard, actually put my security my state at risk. Please understand, from my point of view in security is that my biggest risk is not on the outside. It's my residents that live inside. They are my risk. Okay? So it's not so much having the perimeter and having the access control, and that's sideline issues. Your risk comes from inside, because those are the most influential, smartest, intelligent, Einstein-driven, money-orientated, billionaires, you name it, they're there. Okay? You don't know anything. But at the end of the day, you're there to protect residents from themselves. It's not just from the outside threat, and also residents that fight amongst one another. Because that, no, you can testify to that one clearly. So, but that's the conclusion that we have, is that my security needs to be able to actually deal with the problem at hand. They have to have the ability to. I mean, that's it. You can Fidelity. There's Protea Koyen. The oaks are big. If you have a problem, you pick up a phone and say, "Listen, I have a problem," and they drop 20 extra security officers for you to deal with the situation. I mean, we are currently in a society where if I'm not happy, I strike. It's not fun when the EFF pitches up at your gate with like 300 or 400, and they have the philosophy that they want to come in and break, and you are that perimeter between the resident and these rioters. They don't worry about what are you going to do to, or whose life's in danger, as long as they're safe. And that's what we need to do, is that security has to be able to, help. And they send someone. They send the 20 Kufuts. They send reaction vehicles. They send this riot vehicles. And they've actually got a tactical team that will come and assist you. That's what you need. You need that backup, because it's not a small situation anymore. We've gone past the point of security is just my state, I'm like a little enclosed, my little bubble. We've gone that way. In 94, before the inauguration, it was said that armed robberies in this country, you had a 3% chance of actually getting hurt in an armed robbery. In 2009, that figure was that there was a 70% chance that in an armed robbery, you were going to get hurt. Right now, we're sitting in a situation that you've got a 3% chance of survival. So security has become, it's a science. It's not put it down. I mean, I've seen a situation where someone told us that, security is the highest paid, unschooled, unprofessional people ever. But you're the first kid to be called when the popo hits the fan.
Just on that,
fact.
Just on that, sorry. And we talk about resources and all that, but it's who can put that resources down immediately when you need it. So anybody can put a resource down, but in 2 weeks' time, when the incident happens or the incident takes place, I need the resources to be there right now. And a smaller company cannot, probably could if they had the money, but they cannot put that resources down within 10 minutes of the call. And that's why a bigger company like, which we've mentioned, they've got the 100,000 guys waiting to be deployed. And they have had the training. And like, for example, and I'm going to use Fidelity, I know that they've got a Tonga Lodge or something where they've got guards waiting to be deployed, which is trained in specific riot squads and things like that. So, and I believe that the other companies do the same. But only big companies can keep people like that on the ground and pay them a salary on a monthly basis, waiting for something to happen. I mean, a smaller company cannot do that.
I'll give you a simple example. I had one night shift, 5 guards sleeping, 5 guards removed. Next day they replaced. Smaller companies can't do it. Bigger companies can.
Yeah.
It's simple as that.
Sorry, Andrew, just on your point, going back to your original point, I think because every state's different and the rules are different, so obviously it depends on your SOPs and stuff in terms of the training of the guards, but we go a step further as well. And even Thompson's reliever guards and the current guards on site, we make them write tests on our rules and regulations to ensure that they actually understand, because often they need to understand what they impose in the penalty in that for. So even the reliever guards that Thompson's put on site are all trained on that and actually write those tests. So they're guards that sit at the office if we short posted for something. And they bring one of those guys they're trained on the site and our specific site rules. That file's obviously at the gates and stuff as well.
Just another point before we go down. And I think also where you see a change within the last maybe 5 years is that your industry in the last 10 years who's skyrocketed is the security industry because everybody is there. You've mentioned 4,000. We went through a tender process a couple of years ago. In Midrand alone, there was 147 security companies. I've never heard of them. But it's also over the years, the guys that are on the ground, your officers, the gates, and your reaction office, no longer reaction. They a medic, they're a doctor, they're a psychiatrist, all of those factors, because they get to a scene and then they have to handle it up until it gets escalated to where security manager or site manager or whoever needs to get intervene. At that stage, they're no longer security. They are, like I said, a doctor, a medic, a psychologist, a peacemaker, all of that, all in one.
We've actually trained all our reaction officers at 3 Emerging Med on first aid. So all our reaction officers are trained from Emerging Med.
Yeah, okay, that's a standard procedure, but
Yeah.
what I mean is, yes, they get there, but they also go above and beyond.
Everything.
Barking dogs,
Firefighter.
cats stuck to the tree, so it's no longer, and again, like Mark said, we've opened us up from the beginning. There's a problem for security, but now people take it further. My telephone's not working. I've got no water from City Power. My telephone, you have to give your reference number. We can't, and they get upset.
And they ask one more question. I've got a question in terms of security, whether big companies, small companies, don't care. Do you rotate your guards at some point in time to cut the familiarity out with residents, or, you know what, getting used to? Because I honestly believe that security officers do look for the opportunity to not work. They'll come to work to find ways not to work. To rotate them in such a way that, you know what, that you might not have that breach in security that can happen due to knowing people, getting to, you know what, oh, I know this resident, or I know this person, so he lets him in, or whatever the case might be.
Luckily on our side is, okay, we haven't rotated, but the SOP we've got in place currently makes sure that that doesn't happen. We had an incident with a guy who was arrested now about a month ago by the Hawks within the estate, back in. He came back and he always buy the guys pop in place every week. And I told the officers at that stage when I was a site manager, so listen guys, be careful because you have to declare this because somewhere on the line it's going to turn around and bite in the backside. 3 months down the line it happened, the guy came in, officers opened for him, and that whole, not the one person, the whole shift that was working was told, get out, get new people in. So it's a good idea, but also, yes, you get the familiarity, but it's also on the positive side.
Yeah.
Your residents start knowing faces. And also there's a new face and they, how do they approach them? So I think it's pros and cons. You have to weigh the options and listen, for the last couple of years has it been working well, or do you make a sense and listen, brand new people. And then it's like you're going to a brand new security company. Depending if I go poaching from Copper Leaf or from Blair Ethel or from Jackal Creek,
No, don't mention my site. You're not touching my site.
No, I won't touch your site. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, as a security manager, estate manager, risk manager, you want the best for your estate. The same from your service provider.
Yeah,
That's what you need.
100%. And sorry to interrupt, just on that point, we don't rotate. We might move them between gates or do different functions, but we have a rule that says that if you're willing to buy a guard something, you have to buy every single guard an entire complement.
Yeah, there's as much of any relievers.
So for me, there's pros and cons of rotating and not rotating. I'm going to take an example, Jabu. Jabu was there for years, but he's not been rotated because he's a bloody good employee. He does his job as expected from him. He's always in line. He's always been identified as a high performance from owners, residents, tenants, employees, site manager, everybody. So that's the type of person that you want. So then you get the guys that you have to rotate. You don't want them to get familiar with all the other people and things like that. because he's not as strong as the previous person. So you can rotate them and you can't rotate them. So there's a pros and cons with everything.
Sorry,
like
I just want to come in here. Guys, this is where the managing of the guards takes place. If you are monitoring and you've got your finger on the pulse and you've got your cameras and things in place and you're actually doing the actual, due diligence, then it eliminates the thing for having to rotate, because you'll catch the guy that takes the $10 or that is willing to risk his job or pop and fleece or whatever. So, you can't move the responsibility of management to just rotate the guards every 6 months and that solves your problem, because that brings a whole new load of, sorry for the swear word, sort of problems.
But unfortunately it's like that. But I think what from my estate side is every time, for whatever reason, I take a guard away and I get a new guy. The onus is on the site manager to phone to find out where he came from. But I think it's actually he must go back to his client and say, you need to make a phone call. Where does he come from? Okay, come Jackal Creek. Phone Frikkie and say, Frikkie, okay, this officer comes from you. Why was he rotated away from you? No, because of the following reasons. Then you go back to the site manager, you somebody else.
That's exactly
But I think
my
that's where
point.
top management needs to get
Correct.
involved in this, because you leave it for your service provider, and all they want to make sure is the site is covered.
Yeah.
But then you open up, because the guy might be from your side for bribing and corruption, and he comes to my side, and also he's involved in murder and rape and things like that. You didn't want that. So I think it's also, Mark made a valid point, is we've been talking about, so how many years now, Mark? For years coming together as clients at a spot and talk about everything like an open forum like this.
Good idea.
We always talk about it, but we never do it.
But in all fairness, and I want to say this with respect, it's a forum like this, it's too far between. It's too few and far between to actually have a significant impact. It's like, in all fairness, this concept should be on a monthly basis, rotating between estates. So, I mean, I used to work at Centurion Golf Estate, and I literally had estates around me, even with Midstream and all those, had a relationship where I literally one day people came in with these black garbage bins and for the residents, whatever, and I said, security, search them. And they opened, and when we opened the second one, there was a person sitting in there. They want to just slip him in because it's a process to get him. And I literally phoned 3 or 4 estates around me. I remember speaking to Moitloof and whatever. And it was not 2 days. I get a phone call back and says, you know what, thanks for that, because it worked. We also checked it and it was there. And it's like having like we call it an intelligence or a communications group between estates. That I think will solve a whole lot more, because I can quickly WhatsApp and say, you know what, this is what's happened, this is what I've seen. Or this is a car that's robbed, this is the vehicle, this is the suspect, this is the MO that they did, or whatever. And we all can benefit from that experience or that little bit of information. It's not to say that your state's bad or, you know what, it's sharing that information amongst people with like-mindedness. If I can call it
crime
that.
training, something like that's worked for you might not work for me, but it's something that we all can try. And say maybe it's going to work for us in the same estates. I mean, we're working with the same entry pro. I mean, you've got something for your golfers that I'm not aware of that I'm going to look after now with Dave when I finish down here. So it's something that came out. So if we talk about the crime trend and things like that, so I mean, we're all working for the estates. We all want our estates to be safe and sound. So why don't we do that on a regular basis then?
Unfortunately, I'm being honest.
Just to come in, the meeting is Friday, Jaco. We've set it up for Friday. Frikkie will also be invited if you want to come. We're going to round robin between the states. So I think the first one I'll host is going to be at Blair Athol. And thereafter, on Friday's meeting, we'll discuss wherever the next venue would be. And then we'll take it from there. Just the...
Yeah, just going back to Solution, but we always talk about it, but we never do it. And I think it's we need to make a decision, Solution. Is this like a once-off or every 6 months or whatever, or do we stick to a program, Solution? We've got a main goal for everyone, and then stick to it.
If we must get back to your agenda.
Yeah, this has been very interesting. We're over time. I mean, I'm sure we can go on for another hour. But I really appreciate you guys being here today and your inputs, and very educational. I mean, we've got a residential estate security handbook coming up in August, and it's kind of rethinking everything I'm going to put in there. So, yeah, this has been really, really useful, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Master.